This is our second session in Digital Marketing Mastery 2. For those of you that weren't here, I'm Lisa Bodine. I'm with Giant Voices, a marketing firm out of Duluth. And we are here to talk about digital marketing. We're taking it a little bit another step further from where we were last week. We're really building on the foundation that we set last week. And I'm going to touch on that real quick today. Just so those of you that are new aren't lost, and just to give you a quick reminder. And also setting you up for the next session, which is really more on website development. So that is the purpose today. For those of you that weren't here, and just a reminder, Giant Voices is a strategic marketing firm. We have had a presence in the region, although under a different name, for 30 years. My business partner and I own Giant Voices. We also own Gizmo's promotional products and Giant Academy. We have 20 giants that work for us, and many of those are functional experts. So while I'm standing up here today talking to you about SEO and social media strategy, I have functional experts that do this every single day. My role in our organization is really strategic in terms of how I engage with my clients. I've been doing that in some form or fashion for nearly 20 years across Minnesota. I grew up in the Twin Cities and I keep moving further north. So I think the remote beauty and lake country just really has continued to draw me in. So thanks again for having me here today to share some of that with you. As I mentioned, we are speaking today from the platform of Giant Academy. And Giant Academy was developed. It is an online webinar-based training program that my business partner and I developed, really utilizing our intellectual property that we've established and developed through the course of our career. We also, today, I'm going to share with you some facts and some figures and just some tidbits of information that you may find helpful and will really help provide the baseline of why we are even having this discussion. Those are from a variety of different sources. We are a HubSpot certified partner, and HubSpot is a marketing automation platform. So I've taken a lot of the information from our partners. So just so you know, I didn't make it up, okay? So we are, like I said, building off of the foundation and the fundamentals that we talked about last week. We talked last week about the misperceptions of marketing. Really, there are three that I covered. That misperception number one is that marketing is one element. A misperception that maybe you just need a social media plan, or you just need you just need a brochure for your marketing efforts. We talked about why it's important that you not just think about marketing as one element. We talked about how marketing is often thought of as a creative guess, that it's just not about putting out a marketing campaign or an advertising campaign because you have one great idea. When it's a creative guess, we know that marketing can be an incredible risk. We also talked about the importance of understanding that marketing is not an expense, and that it can be one of the best investments that your company makes. So I just want to remind you all that we talked about and dispelled those perceptions of marketing. We also touched on the purpose of a marketing plan. We're going to really change this to focus on digital today, but it's really about attracting those brand advocates, that good gossip, a lot of positive activity in the marketplace to attract those brand advocates, those people that love you and will share and do anything for you and for your brand. We also talked about attracting those people and compelling them to act for sales. It's about attracting employees to your culture and attracting the press. And I am literally just going to touch on those three components of a marketing plan. So defining your ambition, which is defined as a desire for success, wanting to achieve something successful in your life or in your business. Here's an example of one of those ambitions. You want to build your Facebook followers. You want to increase by 50 followers per month through 2015. I want you to think big, think giant. It's important that you set goals that are attainable, yet challenge you to stretch. Conducting research, absolutely essential, no matter what you're doing. If we are just working on social media, if we are just working on a website, do your research. We talked about defining your target market and that everybody is not your target market. Contrary to what you may hear, contrary to the fact that you may in fact serve all aspects of a population, focusing on that segment of your business that can generate more revenue or is more acceptable in the marketplace. So it's really about focusing in on where you can get your biggest bang for the buck. And then we talked about strategy, and we talked about the core elements of what makes up a comprehensive marketing strategy. And those of you that this is new, it is our very sexy wheel of attraction. Really talking about all of the different elements that attract your target market and entice them to act. Wanting you to know that it is not one silo. We're talking about your brand, we're talking about advertising, pulling in website, digital, social media, public relations, and the ever important internal team around your table back at the office. So that is just a quick refresher on our work from last week. And again, for those of you that weren't here, you can access that audio and the audio and video shortly. So today, I'm going to bring us back to our wheel. And we're going to talk about, last week we touched on the look and feel of your brand and how it should be cohesive. We talked about your brand voice and how it should all tie together, no matter what strategy or tactic you are deploying. Today, we're going to really get into more of the nitty-gritty with respect to these three components of the wheel: website, digital, social media. Where I don't want you to forget keeping your brand consistent. I don't want you to forget talking to your target market specifically, thinking about benefits-focused versus feature-focused. Those are things that are part of the foundation that we need to carry with us no matter what part of the wheel we are focusing on. So today, we're talking about the purpose of your digital marketing plan. How to attract people to your organization's website or digital offers to entice them to act. Again, talking about attracting and enticing people to act. The primary method of doing that really involves some element of search engine optimization. And search engine optimization is defined as the methods used to boost the ranking or frequency of a website in results returned by a search engine in an effort to increase user traffic to the site. Everybody familiar with that term? Raise a hand. Okay, good. So we're going to break that down. And a search engine, whether you're talking about Google, whether you're talking about Yahoo or Bing, they are changing the face of how we all do business. And I will share with you why we need to know and be thoughtful of search engine optimization and how to make sure you position your organization appropriately. Today, I'm going to talk about what you can access for free. There are a lot of resources available that you can pay for. I'm not going to dive into those today because we could be up here all day. But the truth of the matter is, from a search engine standpoint, there's a lot you can do with your time and energy So, optimizing your website. The purpose that we're going to talk about today is optimizing your website for both website visitors and search engines. So, as we think about our target market, search engines are one of them, right? In addition to our visitors that we are calling to come see us. And how search engines work, I think of it oftentimes as little Pac-Man or little Pac people. On the back end, there's web crawlers that we refer to as bots that the search engines deploy to read all of the content on your website. So on the front end, all of your images, all of the actual copy that you have written on your website, all of the links, and then the bots go to the back end and they read your keywords and they read your meta tags and they read all of the different components of your website from a code perspective as well. And Google's promise, or one of the other, any search engine's promise to the marketplace, is that they're going to, when you conduct a search, deliver the most relevant content to your search. So if I Google restaurants in Bemidji, Minnesota, I know that my content isn't going to include restaurants from Duluth. That's their promise to me as a search engine user. And so that's why it's important that we're talking about why you want to optimize your site for both search engines and for your visitors and your customers when they're on your website. So why is it important to do that? And I'm going to share with you just a few facts about search engines and just behaviors of today's marketplace. When you think about it as you're the user. If you do a Google or Bing search, when 75% of the users actually never scroll past the first page. So you might go into the second page, maybe, but generally speaking, we're conditioned to know that we can find what we need to find on that first page, whether it's a paid placement or whether it's an organic search. It's really important that we help you understand what you can do to get there. Another dynamic, 95% of the US population uses search engines each month. Think about that. I don't even know if 95% of the people I know own a computer, certainly not in my grandparents' generation, but 95% of people are using a search engine each month. And the average American is using a search engine 37 times per month. Sometimes I think I use one 37 times a day. I'm not kidding. It is everything. It's at my fingertips. Google's on my voice with my phone. So that's, just think about that from a behavior standpoint and how the marketplace is changing. So today we're going to talk about two different types of search engine optimization. We refer to it as OnPage and OffPage. 25% of search engine optimization is OnPage. Think that is on your website, the content that is on your website, customer facing. 75% of it is OffPage. And that is what you're doing to drive people to your website. 25% on page, 75% off page. So the components of OnPage SEO, those of you may not be able to read it, we've got content, keywords, meta tags, alt tags for pictures, page loading factors, keyword placement, keyword density, and page descriptions. Today, we are really going to focus on, from what I'm chatting with you all about, content and keywords. I'm actually going to walk you through an exercise that We'll touch on some of these other components that will be helpful for you, but remember that I talked about functional experts. All of us in this room, I'm gonna wager a bet here. I would bet that not all of us in this room have the skills to do all of these things. There are people, and there may be some of you in this audience that certainly can, but oftentimes you're gonna find some help. You're gonna hire somebody that can help you with this back end. We have people that just code. We have people that just do that in our team. They are functional experts. So while I want you to have a sense of what you need to know and how you can help save cost and expedite your project, you may look to hire some functional experts for that. So I'm going to just walk through these core components of on-page SEO, starting with content development. And again, we are talking about content that needs to be relevant to your target customer. We went through, for those of you that weren't here, we went through an exercise last week where we dove in and identified our target market from a demographic, psychographic, and from an influence and media mix standpoint. Those of you that weren't here, I would recommend that you take some time to do that project as well. Get to know your target market. Tell your brand story through the content and through the images and through the design that they're comfortable with. Use narratives that resonate with them, and thinking about your website as a salesperson, because really, at the end of the day, it is a salesperson. If it was your salesperson for your individual organization, would it appear to be buttoned up and in a business suit? Would it appear to be more casual and more conversational? Thinking about just some of those, the different types of narratives and the different ways that your target customer looks and feels. Keywords. We are going to talk a little bit more about that, but we want to use relevant keywords. So be thinking about in that content that your reader is, that your visitor is reading, make sure that you're using, if you offer strategic planning, make sure that strategic planning is part of your narrative. Make sure that you use relevant terms around strategic planning that they would identify with. And you're going to want to give, from a standpoint of on-page SEO, you want to give enough content. It's not just about a couple sentences on strategic planning or the great scarves that you have and why hand knitting them is so important. You need to provide more content than that. Generally speaking, best practice, each page of content should have about 500 words. It's a couple paragraphs. It's a fair, it's not insurmountable, but it is certainly, you will want to identify the narrative so those web crawlers and those bots have enough that the information that they can actually bite into. You're going to want to use keywords that are natural, they would be the narrative that your salespeople would use. You will need to incorporate those keywords into the content, as I mentioned before. And there was a time when web developers would try to trick Google. So there's on the back end of your website, which I'll show you, there's an area where you can plug in keywords. And web developers used to think they were pretty savvy in just throwing in buckets of keywords that maybe weren't relevant to that page, but they were relevant to your company or to your business. Google and other search engines have gotten very sophisticated. They want the content and the keywords to be on that page, visible to your reader. So that is something, we're not just talking about throwing in anything that that you can think of, right? It's really talking about relevant content. Because remember, their objective, and they being search engines who are part of our target market, their promise to the marketplace is to deliver relevant results. So as you're thinking about keywords, as you're thinking about developing your narrative for your business, think about how your target market refers to you naturally. Think about how they search for you. If you're an attorney, you may want to think about using other words that describe your professional occupation, like lawyer or legal professional. That's just an example. If you are a restaurant and you have live entertainment, you may want to consider yourself some form of you might want to use nightclub or live entertainment or bar, restaurant and bar. So just thinking about some of those stretches to pull you out of maybe what you think of yourself as, because if you'll remember from last week, it's not about you. It's really about your target market and how they see and perceive you. The other thing to keep in mind is localization. And this is really important if you're a retail establishment. So if you're a clothing or jewelry store or bar, you don't forget to leave your location out. Make sure your location is prominent not only in your content, but also at various points and places on your website. At the header of every page, at the footer of every page, needs to be very prominent. So, and just think about that from a traveler's standpoint. And, I was just doing it last night. If you Google place for dinner in Bemidji, Minnesota, I know that all those results are going to come up accurate, right? So making sure that it helps from a search engine optimization standpoint, and it helps from a localization standpoint. So you'll get more search engines and likely more customers. The other thing about keywords that I want to make sure I touch on is don't use insider baseball. And what I mean by that is, now insider baseball and specifics of a product are certainly important, but they necessarily should not be the only thing that you're putting on your page. So what I mean by that is, a slurry pump manufacturer, I want to understand the environments and the applications they work in, oil fields, mines, steel mills. I don't just want to know that they offer up to 300 horsepower, right? So that you want to make sure that you're including some of the narrative around what the product or service is that you offer. And then tracking and measuring with analytics is also really important. This is, we talked about this last week. You all know I'm kind of an information geek, and I know you're not going to be able to read this. But what it does is it gives you a sense of the analytical tools that are at your fingertips for no cost or little cost through a provider. Analytics give you a lot of information. They tell you how many people have viewed your page. They tell you how many of those people are unique viewers versus people that have they come back and they repeat view. They tell you how long people are on your average page. Your bounce rate, which means people that come and leave right away. Maybe they came to you from a wrong search. A 58% bounce rate is not ideal. And how quickly they exit. Now, you can dive in. The nice thing is you can dive into enormous amount of detail. You can compare month over month. You can compare month over year. You can compare page performance. to other pages, which is what you'll see down here. So you can see where people are spending most of their time. And I guarantee you, those pages you want to make sure are out front and visible. They're not buried in. We want to make sure if the highest content website page that's viewed by your visitor is 3 clicks deep, that's too deep. You need to reassess the way that your sitemap is displayed. So your website, think back to a salesperson, is truly living and breathing and should be analyzed at a minimum of monthly or bi-monthly to make sure that the pages are relevant, there's fresh content, and if you have pages that are being viewed by visitors that are buried, yet they're your highest content requests, you definitely need to think about repositioning those. Google Analytics is one of the reporting tools that you can use. Those of us that, so for example, I use some of the same tools through our marketing automation platform, HubSpot. So there's a variety of different tools that are available. I'm talking today about those that are low cost or no cost, and that is Google